Welcome to the program Spiritism Inspiring Lives. Today your reflections will be based on wars, and our reflections are from the Spiritist philosophical perspective, which we would invite everyone to read, also those who may show interest. The Spirit's book by the greatest French philosopher Allan Kardec, and also educator. So we start our reflections with the first question. What is the cause that leads humankind to war? So current this theme, isn't it? In relation to what we are facing on earth. And the enlightened spirits, the spirits guides that guide humanity, are teaching all of us by saying, I quote, the predominance of the animal nature over the spiritual, and the satisfaction of their passions. In the state of barbarity, nations only know the right of the strongest, and that is why war is a normal state for them. As humans evolve, war will become less frequent since they will avoid its causes. Surely all of us as individuals, we are evolving gradually throughout the different existences, and evolution means that we are improving ourselves. We are emerging from the primitive states in terms of tendencies, of values, of beliefs, and we are actualizing them as we evolve in promoting our own understanding about the law of evolution, the law of charity, of brotherhood. That is the way that we look forward as humanity. But here we are reflecting to understand a bit more from a Spiritist viewpoint what war means and why we are facing these experiences. As we carry on, still in the Spirit's book, question 745, what is to be thought about those who stir up war for their own gain? And again, the enlightened spirits who are guiding humanity are teaching us, and I quote, they are truly guilty and will require many existences to expiate all the murders they have caused, for they will have to answer for every individual whose death they caused to satisfy their own ambition. This is under the law of cause and effect, which every being in evolution is subjected to. So although in the 21st century where we are now, we still are facing wars and death and cruelty, that is transitory. So there is great hope and understanding that humanity is evolving, and each one of us, we can do our bit when we look within, let's say, treating our little internal wars, as we say, the disagreements, the hatreds and anger and so on and so forth. And still in the Spirit's book, question 754, doesn't cruelty result from an absence of moral sense? Once more, the enlightened spirits who are guiding humanity answer the question, and I quote, you may say that the moral sense is not developed, but do not say that it is absent, since it exists in principle in all human beings. This moral sense is what later transforms them into good and humane beings. Later could be the next hour, the next day, the next month, the next year, or the next existences which the spirit, the soul, the individual goes through in order to get to know the natural laws of evolution which are based on love. So once we reach that level, we will become more humane, we will become more charitable, we will develop new understandings, and we will find out that it's a waste of time actually to promote wars. Question 745 in the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec. What is to be thought about those who stir up the war in their own gain? And once the answer given by the spiritual instructors, I quote, they are truly guilty and will require many existences to expiate the murders they have caused, and also the satisfaction that they created these experiences in order to fulfill their ambition. That is transitory. We will free ourselves gradually through that. Even when we realize and see this happening these days, may be attentive in not judging anyone. We are here to analyzing real experiences which we are facing, which we are under, in order to promote our own understanding and also our own way how we educate ourselves in relation to the imperfections of others, healing our own shadows that we may bring within. And still in question 754, doesn't cruelty result from an absence of moral sense, which we just referred, actually, I apologize for that, but is question 756. Will the society of moral individuals someday be purged of evildoers? And the answer is clear, given by the enlightened beings, and I quote, humanity is evolving. I know that sometimes it sounds contrary, but we are. Those who are dominated by the instinct of evil and who are out of place among moral people will disappear little by little. Disappear in a sense that will physically die, they will disincarnate, but they carry on alive with the same tendencies, but they will sooner or later learn in the spiritual world that they have the need to come back and reincarnate again and train themselves with the new abilities that they still are lacking or not willing yet to practice and exercise in this existence. They will be born again in other bodies, the law of reincarnation. Then, with more experience, they will comprehend good and evil better. Good and evil is based under the law of love that we all bring within ourselves since we have been created. As we evolve, we get to know ourselves better. And through the consequences of our own shadows, of our imperfections that we bring in our destinies, which results in pains, limitations, and sufferings, we surely, sincerely, honestly choose to renew ourselves and to actualize ourselves. That happens with every soul in evolution. Is still in the Spirit's book, question 759. Indwelling, what is the value of what is called the point of honor? So visible these days, isn't it? And the enlightened spirits are helping us to evolve in our thinking. And I quote, that of pride and vanity, two vices of humanity. We can even ask ourselves, I am aware of my level of pride and vanity and selfishness. We all have those shadows yet, of course, in different levels. And then when we carry on our reflections, still in the Spirit's book, question 751, the enlightened beings are teaching us, and I quote, intellectual development does not necessarily imply moral development. Spirits of superior intelligence may be evil. They are the ones who have lived many existences without improving themselves. So we can go through many, many different existences as beings in evolution, and we are we developed a lot our intellectual intelligence, but we haven't developed our emotional intelligence, neither our spiritual intelligence. Therefore, we haven't gone through the pathway of conquering morality. So with a lot of intellectual intelligence, without morals, we can cause a lot of evil. And that, again, if we analyze Earth and experiences as learners as we are, we can see that the enlightened spirits are very right in pointing out and showing us, because we can all learn from each other what not to do and what to do in order to diminish wars on Earth. Carrying on our reflections, we move to the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 16, item 8. I quote, the source of evil is in selfishness and pride. Abuses of every kind will cease by themselves when men turn to the law of charity. So wars are based on evil. Evil is the source of selfishness and pride. And selfishness and pride will diminish gradually by each soul when we turn our minds, our hearts towards the law of charity, which is the practice to love one another. Moving on in the Spirit's book, question 1018, I quote, "Good will reign on earth. When amongst the spirits who come to inhabit it, the good ones overcome the bad ones. Then they will make love and justice reign, which are the source of good and happiness. It is through moral progress and the practice of God's laws that men will attract to the earth the good spirits and drive away the bad ones. But the wicked spirits will leave it only when man has banished pride and selfishness." So what we learn here, that we who are incarnate through our pride and selfishness, through our imperfections, we are attracting all spirits who are on the same level, also favoring, stimulating, reinforcing wars through our inner limitations. We all have the ability to overcome our own shadows, to become better people, to stimulate goodness within ourselves, so that gradually through the law of evolution, which we choose to exercise on a daily basis, we overcome the bad through the good that we choose to think, feel, and do in our existences. And as each individual chooses those references, we are, as a society, evolving together in a better way, freeing ourselves from wars. It's still in the Gospel according to Spiritism in chapter 11, item 12, I quote, "Selfishness is the negation of charity. Now, without charity, there is no tranquility in social life, neither security." This is a reference of great reflections in all of our times, but currently, as we are facing such an instability, here we are remembered and refreshed our minds that selfishness, which is one of the causes of wars, is the negation of charity. And without the practice of charity, there is no tranquility in social life, neither security. Gosh, how insecure is the world these days? Because pride and selfishness is in a high and charity in a low. So on an individual level, not to sit back in the victim position and expect that everything and everyone outside us changes for us to feel better. God gives us the free will that all of us, within our individuality, we can choose to be more and more charitable on a daily basis, so that we feel safe within ourselves and also bring this a positive element in the way in our families, in the society where we are living, certain that the values outside us in the society, which are based on the human's understanding, which is transitory, will change, is changing, and if not in another way, we will get saturated by the instability, the insecurity that wars and caused by selfishness and pride will gradually eradicate. We will choose, that's enough. That is not how I or we could live. We have a better chance. It's still in the Spirit's book in question 1018, I quote, "Good will reign on earth." When we all improve ourselves on a daily basis, as I mentioned previously. How is that translated in actions? When we become more forgiving, when we become more tolerant, when we become more flexible, resilient, more charitable on the moral aspect, more caring, more forgiving, so that we stimulate the goodness within ourselves, that we are honest, that we are sincere in the little actions that are part of our daily existences. Joanna de Angelis, in the book Victory Over Depression, states, I quote, "Do not be the one who becomes an obstacle to good, creating imbalance the situation that becomes others' bitterness." So let's develop awareness that we may perhaps silence more each time when we are irritated, when we are dealing with our anger, frustration, deception, Bear in mind, these are internal responses in relation to the external factors. Our perception changes when we change the way that we think and feel in relation to that. Yes, it's challenging for all of us yet, but it is possible to silence more. It's possible to be more tolerant. It's possible to think twice before we may say something that we may regret later on. Understanding that humanity is going through a significant moral crisis that directly affects the individual and collective relations due to the daily challenges that mark the planetary existence. Earth is changing, is in a changing process, and we all are undergoing trials, difficulties, experiences which require our own actualization. It's not a political crisis, it's not a financial crisis. In reality, it is a moral crisis that we're going through. So that we stimulate within ourselves the values, the potentials of the superconsciousness that we all bring within, the higher faculties, as I mentioned previously, and above all, training on daily basis, forgiveness, indulgence, benevolence, be educating ourselves that we can think in a more healthier way that favors the good within ourselves and also around ourselves. As we carry on, so what can we do then individually to cooperate for the good of all? That is for sure. When we choose to develop the good, the higher potentials within ourselves, in other words, the virtuous aspects, we are cooperating to diminish the wars in the world within ourselves and also collectively. As I mentioned, developing goodness. And Spirit Emmanuel in the book Safer the Lose helps us to bring some reflections that perhaps we can nourish ourselves also in our inner thinking. I quote, "In the culture of peace, let us always know, respect the opinions of others as we wish to maintain the respect of others for us. To place ourselves in the position of our fellow man in difficulty so that we may know how to be useful to them." It's almost like to place ourselves in an empathic way so that we can understand where the other is and think twice before we say or act automatically. And Emmanuel continues, silence inappropriate or destructive references. It's almost like inviting us to be the instruments where eventually negative references come to us, slander, gossip, whatever. We stop that because we are aware and conscious that we have a choice simply to interrupt the current of negativity, of the elements that create the tensions within individuals. And he carries on by saying, recognize that our pains and trials are different from those who visit the heart of others. We all are learning. We all have challenging experiences that we undergo, but they will all be experienced in a unique way when it comes to our internal reality, merely because all of us are unique individuals. We are not copy and paste. So we have unique mental and emotional response in relation to the events. And it's more as we evolve, more we are really getting out of perhaps the contamination of the collective systems that we may still be under. Consecrate ourselves to the fulfillment of our own obligations, meaning one of the good aspects in diminishing the difficulties in the world is to take responsibility for our own duties. Duties are tasks that we as spirits actually choose to undergo in order to promote ourselves, to heal ourselves, and also to diminish pride and selfishness, as mentioned previously, are the elements behind any word. And the Spirit Emmanuel continues, make every occasion the best opportunity to cooperate for the benefits of others. So it's almost like inviting us, get out of selfishness where you just consider yourself. Look around you, what you can help in doing good, promoting good for your family, for your community, in your workplace, in where we are. So in that way, we are helping to build a better world, a world with more fraternity, with more solidarity, with more brotherhood. And also to improve ourselves through work and study wherever we are. Doesn't matter where we are, in which country, in which phase in our existence, there's always time, as immortal means that we can choose to learn more about ourselves, perhaps from a transpersonal perspective, from a holistic perspective, that brings us the spiritual intelligence into account, that really reflects in which way we are making our choices and how we are expanding our own reflections in or initiatives or on frustrations or whatever goes on, so that we can reevaluate them if it's wise or not. Cultivate the pleasure of serving. If you choose to help impact society, to diminish wars, either in this existence or in others, it's fundamental that we freely choose the place of serving, the place of service, having the pleasure to serve and no longer to be served. Pride and selfish, remember, are the vices behind the wars. Seeking the consideration of peacemakers, we will keep the certainty that true peace does not arise spontaneously, since it is and always will be the fruit of the effort of each one. We all, as humanity, are aiming peace in the world. Peace in the world is possible when every and each individual chooses to disarm ourselves, choose to, through forgiveness, through to humbleness, to charity, which is really learning to be benevolent, indulgent, tolerant, friendly, give the other opportunities, give other opportunities to us so that we can carry on improving constantly the ability to love ourselves and others more. Because as more as we learn to love on an unconditional way, we surely are diminishing the internal wars and also the external wars gradually. Going back to the Spirit's book in the question 779, do humans draw from within themselves the power to progress, or is progress nothing more than the result of education? And the enlightened spirits are appointing to us, and I quote, they advance naturally by themselves. So it is a natural process, although it takes longer or not, depending on our free will, but everyone will evolve. And that means that we, as a society, also will be evolving and looking forward to freeing ourselves from wars, which is so painful, which causes so much pain for the individuals, for the families, for the countries, and for society in general. And then, still in the Spirit's book, question 743, the question is, will wars someday disappear from Earth? I quote again the lessons from the Enlightened Spirits when they say, yes, when men and women understand justice and practice God's law, then all nations will live as brothers and sisters. Will that not be loving? Would we not be looking forward that we could all be at peace where we live, in our homes, in our communities, in our workplaces, in our societies, in the different countries, that we have respect towards each other, that we have consideration, that whenever our differences, we can sit, we can talk, we can dialogue, and always look forward in sorting out our goals, considering the good for everyone. That is the major aspects really that we are invited to learn. It's natural that there are differences sometimes when we are in a collective setting, but there is always a healthy way that we can promote challenging experiences when we, let's say, overwrite our memories through humbleness and charity, so that we override pride and selfishness. And the greatest lessons has been given to us by Jesus, the greatest psychotherapist, the greatest educators of all times, when he said to us more than 2,000 years back, love one another. Don't do to others what you would like not others to do to you. Let's reflect about these deep, profound insights that has been presented to us as we are on earth to help to heal us, to help to heal our societies, to help to heal the planet. And also above everything what we mentioned, those who believe, let's pray more. Pray is an internal connection through our hearts, through the love, that we can sincerely wish well every being in our society, every being on earth and beyond, so that we stand up together as brothers and sisters in humanity, moving forward, evolving always. And in that way, I'm coming to the end of our reflections today, wishing you much peace, and I hope to see you next time around.